Hey guys, and welcome back to the official podcast of Development Unplugged. And today is episode 19, and we're going to be talking about gratitude. So, first of all, if you're watching us live, you can see we're now finally back at the office. Thank you very much for all the loving, nurturing, regenerative, supportive messages during the last few weeks. If you haven't been following the last few episodes, basically we were in our kind of second office where my grandfather was living until he passed away a couple of weeks ago.
And a week ago.
No, a couple of weeks ago. So about a couple of weeks ago. So the last few episodes have been influenced by the passing of my grandfather and the process of taking care of him during his last few days and weeks. We've basically been out of town. So now we're back at the office, and we thought the topic of gratitude would be a very fitting topic because we are very, very grateful for all the support we've had, all the kind messages, all the suggestions, all the acts of support. You know, it really, we wouldn't have been able to go through this process at least not as well as we did without all the support. We really were able to help my grandfather live his life till the very end, the way he desired, following his instructions, his requests, and we couldn't have done that without the support of many people. And during the process of, dealing with his passing, we got a lot of support, a lot of messages, and so we want to express gratitude to everyone who's kind of been with us along the journey, whether physical or remote, and whether with messages or with actions. Thank you. We want to talk today about how gratitude can be used to enrich your life, to heal deteriorated relationships, to sometimes heal traumas, to sometimes change how we view events from the past, because sometimes we can reflect back and have a not so positive view of that relationship or that period or that experience. And while certainly we've all gone through difficult periods, many times if we focus on what can I be grateful from in terms of those experiences, many times we can find things that have made us become stronger, or meet someone, or choose more self-respect, or, sometimes even from our difficult periods, there's opportunities for growth. And obviously in development, we talk a lot about this concept that without failure, without rejection, without uncomfortable periods, we don't really level up. We don't really innovate. We don't step out of our comfort zone. So, but sometimes it can be a bit challenging to really find the positive in difficult situations. So with gratitude, really, what can I be grateful for from this situation that I'm not happy with? Oh, okay, I became stronger. I met this person, or I chose more self-respect in this moment. And really, there's a lot of good things that sometimes can come out of not so positive experiences. And also, when it comes to gratitude, we also want to talk a little bit about how different contexts, different personalities results in different ways of expressing gratitude. And sometimes we have people in our lives that are grateful that don't know how to express it in a way that we understand, and we maybe don't know how to receive it. And sometimes we are grateful, but we don't know how to communicate it to the other person because their context and their personality means that they would prefer a different way of expressing gratitude. So we also want to talk about how to express and receive gratitude with different types of people, so that there really is more of a general sensation of we appreciate each other, we support each other, we're there for each other. So let's get started. So this episode, my mother and sister here, and I think we all have a lot to say on this topic.
Yeah.
So does anyone want to start with something?
Well, for me, it's one of my favorite tools, my favorite topics, because it really changes your day if you choose to be in gratitude. And talking about my father was a person that every single day he was grateful for something. Oh, my earring just fell down. And it was amazing the way he enjoyed his life and the little treasures during the day he would find, the beautiful landscape, the company, the silence, whatever it was.
Yeah, no, it's exactly as my mom is saying. It's really, he was this kind of person that his gratitude was infectious. You know, you'd go swimming with him in the pool and he'd say, look at this view. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it the most beautiful place on earth? And he would start telling stories about things in his life. He would start singing songs from his childhood. And, you know, it is infectious when you're with a person that is really grateful for what they have in life and is grateful for the people around them. It cheers you up. It makes you feel good being around them.
Yeah. Well, in some cases, it might make you angry at the beginning.
Oh, if you're not used to it, or if you're feeling insecure, or if you're feeling that life is unfair, or, you know, you're kind of mad at life and mad at the world, then yeah, it can piss you off when you see someone so grateful, because there's that jealousy and envy that kicks in.
Yeah.
But then you try and cover it up with other things like, oh, they're too happy, they're annoying, they're this, they're that.
There are obviously people that, obviously everyone has different brain chemistries and different experiences, different contexts. And there are people that obviously have a more pessimistic nature. Yes, sometimes with people who have a more pessimistic nature, when you express gratitude or when you express happiness, it can be hard to do it in a way that they can understand, that they can really appreciate, because their brain will instantly go into oh, that's not real gratitude. They're just saying it because they want something, or they're just saying it because nothing in life is free, or they're not really being realistic or really seeing the reality of the situation. Yeah, I mean, a lot of kind of negative narratives can kick in. But my experience is, even with those people, if you do express gratitude to them in a very direct but very non-autopilot mode, what do I mean by this? Like, if you really can point out something very specific in their behavior, in their actions, that they haven't really acknowledged, that they haven't really noticed, and you really can point it out and explain why there's value in that. Because one of the things we talk a lot about in development is we're very good at criticizing ourselves and devaluing ourselves, and we're our own worst critics, and we have kind of this question that we ask a lot. It's like, what is easy for you that's hard for someone else, you know? And many times we're good at devaluing ourselves in those, but really pointing out and explaining, this thing you did contributed so much to this situation, and no one else in the family, or no one else in the team, or no one else around could have done what you did in that moment. And without you, this situation would have been way worse. So acknowledge that, and really more of I'm grateful for you, is you should be grateful for yourself and celebrate your achievement. When we talk about gratitude, we have to also understand gratitude of self is very important. Gratitude of one's own actions is very important. And if you're going to express gratitude for someone else, if you can help that person have gratitude with themselves, then your gratitude for that person is going to be way more powerful than if you express gratitude for something that person is going to instantly make less in their mind, and they're going to be like, no, it was nothing, right? Or no, we're very good at diminishing our actions and devaluing ourselves.
And our contributions. I mean, we often don't see our contribution, especially when we are feeling down, when we are drained or insecure.
Yeah, no, 100%. So it's very, very important that we challenge ourselves to look at in ourselves where we devaluing ourselves and not receiving gratitude, not receiving compliments, and really instantly going to a negative narrative. And where are we failing to help other people see their value, see why there is real gratitude and not just a obligatory thank you. I think in society we're so used to obligatory thank yous that the word thank you in and of itself has lost a bit of its power. But I think gratitude is way more than just thank you. Gratitude is how a person responds to the actions of another person.
Yeah,
How do they receive? How do they sometimes return the favor? But how do they express happiness and gratitude with their general demeanor? I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of it can be influenced by the narrative we have about a situation. Because if we're looking at a situation very constructively and going, oh, look, wow, okay, this kind of sucked, but it led to this positive thing, or hey, this actually helped me in this way, or for example, I once had a job that it was a bit of a slave contract that I couldn't legally get out of, and where my boss
a little bit of context. In Japan, labor laws in some areas a little sketchy.
Yeah.
They're a very, very advanced country in a lot of things, but labor laws and contracts and clauses in the contract to leave a job and things like that really can be very sketchy.
Yeah.
She literally had a job where there was no clause in the contract for her to leave.
Yeah. That's exactly what was going on. There was no clause explaining under which circumstances I could leave, which by default means I can only leave if my boss agrees. So I was in this situation. It was really, really, really stressful. It was really difficult. I was going to lawyers. I was trying to build a case. I couldn't build a case legally. And all of that really sucked. But now that I'm living my life as I am right now, there are two things that I'm really grateful for about that situation. One of them, I learned a lot. Because I was in the job that I was in, my boss was investing a lot in training me, in teaching me a lot of life skills that I use now and that help me every day now. But also, one of the things that kind of wasn't so fun in the moment, but that ended up being a really great thing for me, is that my boss was really driven by his emotions, and he would go back and forth between being super happy and super upset. When he was happy, it was all beautiful speeches about how wonderful we all are and how we're going to change the world and we're going to change lives, and really, really inspiring. And then one little thing could make him get really, really angry and start humiliating people publicly, and it would get very uncomfortable very fast. But what I was able to do is I was able to use it to my advantage, in the sense that, okay, if he doesn't want me to leave and that's why I can't leave, I need to make him want me to leave. Yeah. So I started being bad at my job. I started not answering phone calls. I started not answering emails. I started not being around, until within like 3-4 days, he got so upset that he fired me. So this is the kind of situation where, okay, yeah, the job itself sucked in a lot of ways, and it was very stressful being in that situation, but I developed so many skills through that. I started seeing myself in a different way through that. I started expressing myself in a different way through that. Like, even my friends and the people in my life and my partner at the time, they would look at me and they would say, you've changed, but in a really good way. I feel more connected with you. I feel more that you're being more vulnerable, because I learned how to express myself.
No, I still now, like, I obviously didn't get the training she went through in that job in Japan. And today, when it comes to a lot of skills, when it's public speaking, appearances, being on TV, being on radio, when it comes to filming, when it comes to body language, posture, there's a lot of things that, like, I wish I had the training that she got in Japan, because when she films, it's like one take, boom, boom, boom. When I have to film, yeah, it can be a fun time that requires a lot of patience from the directors and people behind the scene and in the editing room.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. Like, you can take a situation like that, and probably something good has come out of it. Even really, really difficult situations, maybe the good thing that came out of it is you went, hey, I've been fucking up in the same way over and over, and I'm done with it. Or I've been getting into shitty relationships over and over, and I'm done with it. I've been doing this thing with my life that really sucks, but now I'm done with it. You know?
No, and it was a long time. I don't know how long it was, that job, but it was
felt like forever.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. It was more than a year, I suppose, because it took us. We went to all kind of lawyers. We tried all kind of ways of getting out, even of the country. It was so incredible. The stress we went through every single day, every single moment, it was awful. But also having gratitude during those moments, finding the least bad things to be grateful about, would allow itself to get through that day.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you can start giving yourself credit for the good things in your life and have gratitude for yourself, your confidence levels are going to change. Because superficial confidence is, oh, look, I have this thing. Oh, look how wonderful I am, without substance. But when you have true gratitude, it's knowing, hey, I can handle things even if they go wrong.
Yeah, and maybe you know already, but itself has suffered from depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
So imagine any normal person going through a job like that, where really you have a boss that is changing dramatically, where you cannot plan things ever because he will change.
Anything that I needed to do for my personal life, I would have to get permission from him, and it could take months before I got permission. So a lot of opportunities were lost, and a lot of things that I wanted to do personally, I couldn't do.
Yeah, she was really waiting for the call when she works every single day. It's very natural.
A little bit
in
of
Japan.
context to add a little bit of context. That there are certain jobs and certain roles where you have a public image, where if you have like an agency that you work for, they will provide certain guidelines and certain rules for what you can do and what you can't do. What can you be seen doing? What can you not be seen doing? And when you live in countries like Japan, you have maybe even more challenges choosing for yourself. But even in the US, I mean, there are certain like actors and actresses and models and different things when they work in certain, like YouTubers are a very good example. YouTubers, there are actually networks and agencies that kind of stimulate and support YouTubers, and they basically sometimes tell them what to say, when to say it, how to dress. And when you are in a situation where you work for an agency and you have to find the balance between this is my own identity and this is kind of the identity and the purpose and the mission of the company or whatever, it can be very challenging because you end up feeling like you don't have a voice. You end up feeling like you are not in control of your own life, and you feel like you're robbed of a lot of things, and you are really being robbed of a lot of things. So yeah, just wanted to add that kind of context.
So you're a public persona and you have no private life.
I think basically a lot of people don't really realize how there are people who maybe they look up to, who really are being controlled and limited a lot.
Even where you shop.
Where you shop.
Where you go, who you're seen in public with. You want a haircut, all of a sudden you have to send pictures and check to get permission. So yeah, it was really, really difficult for me because I am a very independent person, and I do like feeling that I'm thinking for myself, that I'm acting for myself, that I'm growing constantly. And there were so many things that were being limited by that situation. But the whole point of this is being able to have gratitude. Okay, maybe he was not a great boss, and maybe it was not a great job in many ways, but the training that I got was amazing. And the personal growth that I underwent was absolutely amazing. And knowing that even in an impossible situation, I was able to find what was possible to make it work. Those are the kinds of things that if you can give yourself credit for that, if you can be grateful for yourself for that, your whole life changes, because then you're not living afraid of messing up, afraid of what's going to go wrong, afraid of this or that not working out. You realize, okay, maybe it's not going to work out, but is it worth it to me to take the risk? Yes or no? Because you know you're going to handle it.
I'm just going to give a little disclaimer. I'm still recovering from my cold from last week's episode. So if you hear me cough or if you hear my stuffy nose, I apologize. I've just been told by Steve behind the cameras that I coughed into the microphone and stuff, so I apologize for that. And yeah, my nose is very stuffy. So this kind of story that Itzel is sharing is very, very important, because we've all gone through some very traumatizing, very difficult periods. We've all had some very, very shitty jobs and relationships, and sometimes experienced abuse and really rejection and failure and frustration and a lot of very annoying things, a lot of very difficult things that sometimes affect us for life. And obviously there are many different contexts and many different situations, but I think something very valuable of this narrative is, wow, look back at this period that in the moment it felt like the most frustrating, difficult, like I felt powerless in this moment. But now, today, all what I learned from that, and I can say the same with many of my early relationships. They were terrible. I was an abuse magnet in for a period where I would really choose abusive relationships, and that my first relationships are very, very toxic. But from that, I learned a lot of self-respect. I learned a lot of communication, a lot of ways of, you can be kind without being so submissive and so, like, with a total lack of self-respect. Like, you can kind of set certain boundaries and set certain rules, and like, I'm not gonna tolerate this, and without being like a dick about it, just being like, that doesn't work for me. And by looking back at some of your relationships, you might also even discover that people that you've considered abusive might not have been intentionally abusive. They may have experienced just having a totally different personality, being very drained in that moment, very, very lost in that moment, and then the worst side of them came out. And that's not to justify their actions, but it's to understand that, oh, they didn't mean to necessarily do what they did. Sometimes yes, but I mean, if we look at bullies, most bullies come from homes with abusive parents, or with violence in the home, or with drama in the home. Most abusive in relationships, a lot of people, if they grow up in a home where they've been spanked a lot or hurt a lot, they may learn that violence is a way to deal with disagreements. And having a little bit of empathy and gratitude for them trying to be better, even if they sometimes failed, can also be positive. Because there are people that I've met in their low point that, with some personal development, with some self-reflection, with some personal growth, have transformed totally. And obviously we are in the space of personal development, so we have to obviously believe that people can get better. You should never get into a relationship with the desire to change someone, because obviously people have their personalities and their contexts, and if they don't have the desire to change and the desire to grow, you can never force that. But I will say, if you help them regenerate, if you help them with their insecurities, if you help them develop more emotional intelligence, I mean, a lot of things can improve. And I have definitely had relationships and friendships that have had a lot of things that, if I were too, I'm going to say the word sensitive, it's not the right word, I might have pushed those people away, and they have actually contributed a lot by me being patient and empathetic and having gratitude for their desire to be better, their desire to grow. And behaviors you cannot change behaviors overnight. So there are people who come from certain environments, and when they try to level up and get into a new environment that might be healthier, they might rebound. They might return to their old ways. They may make mistakes. I mean, I know a lot of people who have had this strong desire to grow, and then had people in their environment or past environment be like, oh, you think you're better than us. Oh, you've lost track of where you come from. Oh, and then drag them down, and then they make mistakes, and then they mess up, and sometimes have very big fuck ups. And it's not that you really don't stop being, like, you shouldn't stop being grateful. Like, you shouldn't stop being grateful for them when they make mistakes. Keep the gratitude and keep supporting them. If you feel that their desires in the right place, if they generally contribute a lot of good to you, just don't judge a person completely based on their moments of making mistakes. We all make mistakes.
But do look at the warning signs. Sometimes they say they want help. Sometimes they will say they are changing just to hook you back. So keep a distance and always know who they are at the moment. Don't label them, but be aware what they are capable of when they are drained.
Yeah.
Because, and I have to say, for me, what changed the whole thing was being grateful for myself. When you level you up with gratefulness for yourself, you can detect faster when somebody is not really grateful, because some are very good at saying the words, even crying and showing and saying the perfect things without having the feeling. But if you are grateful for yourself, you know how gratitude really feels, then they cannot lie to you.
I think a good way to clarify, just to add a little bit of clarification to what I was saying, and then you can probably fill in a bit. It's what I'm referring to is the challenge we face in developed development and the mission we have at developed development is never to be one size fits all. So there are people who burn bridges very quickly and are too sensitive to small little mess ups, to small little offenses and small little things, and they will instantly get offended and will be like, no, I can no longer be your friend. And that person maybe contributed more good, and yes, they may have had a low moment, and then maybe you judge them too much for that. But there are also the other people who are overly empathetic and overly forgiving. I've been maybe in that camp a lot because I see the best in people, and I think everyone can really be or do whatever they want to. I understand exactly why they do everything they do. So every abuse I've experienced, I've known exactly what led them to feel and act and think and instinctively do that. So that's why for many years I had a lot of abusive relationships, and I felt like, oh, I am so emotionally intelligent that I can deal with that. I can put up with that. And I took that too far. So obviously it's don't go try the extreme. Don't burn bridges prematurely, and don't justify too many negative actions. I think as a whole, my kind of stance is two very simple things. One, is this person truly grateful for me, or are they just using me or just saying that they're grateful to kind of hook me? And I look at their actions, I look at their behaviors, I look at, are they constantly feeling like a victim? Are they constantly feeling pessimistic about everything? Or do my contributions to that person actually make a difference? Then on the flip side, what was I saying? I got some indications behind the scene that I was making noise with my hands. So basically, where was I going with that?
You were kind of looking at the two sides of things. Sometimes we go too easy on people. Sometimes we're too tough on people.
Yeah, you have to start seeing what works for you. Okay. Nobody else can tell you. Yeah. And there's a limit that you should learn. Okay, once I pass this, I start losing myself. And I think the secret is not to lose yourself in a relationship or for somebody or something else.
Yeah. And it also shouldn't be an extreme effort to not lose yourself. And I want to add that because, I've done a lot of personal development that does focus on, okay, what is your perspective? How are you processing things? How are you experiencing things? And there's a lot of focus on yourself, but I use that to be very permissive with other people and to forgive other people too much sometimes. And I think the key is that, it's not just you have to not lose yourself, it's that it shouldn't be an extremely hard effort every single day with that person to not lose yourself. No. If it's an effort in certain moments, that's fine. I think humans are humans. We have moments where we're not all at our best. But if every time you're with that person, it's
that actually the thing I wanted to say, the second thing I was saying, like there are two guidelines I have, and the second one that I have is, one is how much gratitude do they have, and the other thing is that person, when I'm with them, when I'm collaborating with them or spending time with them, do they contribute more good or more bad? Like, do I get more regenerated with them, or do I get more drained with them? And obviously there are going to be people that are going through a period of, maybe they lost their job, maybe they are going through a breakup, maybe they're going through something that's making them insecure, make them drained. And during those periods we need to be more patient with people. But as a whole, if there's someone we've known for a longer period of time and we've seen them during the good and the bad, we have to look at, as a whole, what's their what's the general feeling with this person?
Mm-hmm.
Is it mostly good or is it mostly bad?
Yeah.
And that's where we can take a step. Okay, and everyone decides their own limits.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's not 50-50. For me, it's not like is it more or less than 50% of the time. For me, I have a higher tolerance than many people because of my context. I'm an earthly individual. If you don't know what that means, it's the personality type that's most empathetic and a very middle point in terms of their energy levels. So they're very flexible and very agile. So for me, I can really get along with almost any type of person and really see the best in any type of person. So for me personally, I choose to have a higher tolerance than some other people. But my level of tolerance doesn't need to be your level of tolerance or your level of tolerance. We all choose our levels because we all have different levels of patience or desire or interest. For me, a passion project is personal development, is helping people. So that also increases my tolerance level because I want to help people get from maybe their dark periods to their kind of light periods, right?
Yeah.
But what I've learned is along the way to have more self-respect in the process.
And that starts with a lot of gratitude for you.
Mm-hmm.
To start choosing every day to find things
for me
to celebrate what you are.
A big thing, talking about gratitude, for me, I made one very simple rule for myself. Help the people that have most gratitude and are more interested in actually changing and demonstrate it. Because I used to stress myself helping people who really said they wanted to change, but really were addicted to feeling like a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Were addicted to feeling like the world was against them and that nothing would ever make them feel better. And I learned in the period that it would take me to help one of those people, I could help 20, 30, 100 or more people that were ready, that were like choosing to level up.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot force someone to level up. Like it's such a draining process to try to help someone level up if they don't want to.
Yeah.
But if someone is ready to level up, it's so easy to help them along the way, to give them that little boost, to give them that little support, to give them that emotional support or financial or like whatever it is, like physical, like just being there for them, like just giving them that little boost in that moment. Fantastic. So when it comes to gratitude, if you surround yourself with mostly people who have a lot of gratitude for you, you're gonna feel much higher self-worth. Like, for example, when we spend time with certain family members, with certain lifelong friends that we know have a more negative, pessimistic demeanor, when we spend time with them, we end up feeling less powerful, less capable. Like in the words of Develop Your Element, my fire gets drained when I've spent time with some people, and suddenly I feel like a failure because there are some people that are so good at making you question everything that you're doing. Like, for example, like I recently had a lovely conversation with a very drained uncle of mine who spent hours telling me how everything that I do is wrong and how I'm useless. And that's not great, the feeling that you have when you go through those moments. And I realized this years ago, and I made a conscious choice. I'm going to spend maybe a little less time with that uncle and maybe a little bit more time with those people who actually make me feel powerful and have more cheerleaders in my life. And not just cheerleaders that give you false sense of ability, because there's nothing worse than someone who gives you a false sense of ability, because then you go out in the world and like I'll illustrate this to you. Have you ever watched American Idol or X Factor or any of those talent shows, America's Got Talent or whatever, and you've seen an individual who has absolutely no talent, absolutely no capacity for singing or playing an instrument, but they have a parent who's making them feel like they are the best thing ever at what they do, and they don't need to practice more, or they don't need to really become self-aware, and they create a really strong disconnect and a really a strong lack of self-awareness. And that's not what you want. You want people who tell you the truth, that tell you critically, no, this is not good. This might not be the path for you. You may not be the next, you might not be the next Beyonce. Like, and it's not to kill people's dreams. It's just there are some people that if they pursue a certain path with with a lack of self-awareness, they're gonna be constantly disillusioned.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying go for only cheerleaders. Find a balance between people who are cheerleaders and people who are sometimes critical of you, but lovingly so. Like here at the office, we have a good balance of people who are like very good at being like super positive about everything that I do, for example. And then I have some people on the team that are very good at being very critical of everything that I do. And I kind of find a middle point to really, okay, I'm self-aware. This is an area of weakness for me. This is an area that I have to develop, that I have to learn, that I maybe need to ask for help with. But this area, okay, this area I need to maybe double down on and things like that. So
I think I just need to add something based on all of what you're saying. I think one of the things we need to understand about true gratitude is that it's not that blind gratitude of, I'm not going to look at the actual situation. If you're feeling gratitude, but it's dependent on not seeing the situation, then you're telling yourself a lovely fairy tale, but that might not be based on the truth. But if you're grateful, even though you are aware of the not so good things, or because you're aware of all the not so good things, that's a much different gratitude. Like when you can look at it and go, okay, yeah, this kind of sucks, and yeah, this is stressful, and yeah, I'm feeling maybe like I'm taking 2 steps back in this situation, but if you're at the same time able to see, but I'm taking steps forward in this situation, or but this won't last forever, but I'm actually learning a lot from this, or but I'm getting this stressful thing over with so that I can be happier in the future, so that I can build a better future. That's a very different sense of gratitude. That's one that's is not dependent on every day being sunny.
No.
It's like, okay, it's pouring down, but that's fine.
I would like to say something. I mean, when you are in the public eye, people will have opinions about yourself. And people will betray you. Well, even if you're not in the public eye, people will say bad things about you. They will criticize you. They will be mean. They will try to steal your ideas, etc. When I meet those people, I go immediately to gratitude, because before I would not see them. At least now I have the eyes, and I can see when somebody is not being sincere with me, when somebody is using me, when somebody is whatever. So my first thing, as soon as, instead of trying to get hooked in the story, oh, poor me, nobody loves me, or, oh, this person is so mean, blah, 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 and getting engaged into the argument and the provocation, because many times they try to provoke you. If you're shining a lot and they feel they cannot shine, they will provoke you into getting into competition with them or something, so you pay attention to them instead of doing what you're doing. So my objective every day, every night, is not getting hooked with anything. Not getting hooked on the positive or the negative. And the first thing I try to do, as soon as I notice that I'm falling into the trap of getting hooked, is gratitude. Oh, thank you for showing me who you are. Thank you. Wow, now I can see it. Thank you, Berenice, because you're willing to see it now. Thank you, because I have the tools. Thank you, because I have gratitude for this. And as soon as I go into finding things to be grateful about, I got unhooked. Yeah. I got unhooked. And the more gratitude I give to myself, the more I value, as you say, the little steps sometimes, because sometimes they are tiny. But now I can see it. A year ago, I couldn't see it. Or 2 weeks ago, I couldn't see it. Now I can see it. Wow. You start recognizing and celebrating your little achievements and just not getting hooked with them, at least for an hour, you know. Wow, this is amazing. And it has happened to us that sometimes we've been with people that are really not very kind, and they have the upper hand in many respects for some reason. And what we do is we recharge our batteries. We really get regenerated and go with the idea we are going to find ways to be in gratitude for them and us, and not get hooked on. And it has been amazing. I mean, seriously, if we cannot go into details, but what we have using the tools of conflict resolution and gratitude has really helped us a lot in the recent weeks, in the recent years, not to get hooked where we used to be in automatic. We will get hooked by people.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, if you start developing gratitude for yourself, you're going to get less hooked in these situations because you have that sense of self-confidence and that sense of self-worth where you know that your entire life doesn't depend on other people's actions. And I think that's one of the traps we can fall into, is really believing that we don't have control over our own lives and our own situations. So the good things that happen is thanks to other people. The bad things that happen because of other people. Everything's because of something external. But when you start having gratitude for yourself, you're able to see, oh, even that good thing that was thanks to another person, I allowed it to happen by saying this, by doing this, by receiving it, by allowing it, by not rejecting it. I think one of the things that I've had a lot of conversations with friends about when we're talking about relationships, worries about relationship. Is it going to go bad? Is it going to go good? Things like that. I say a lot of my worst relationships are the ones that have really taught me a lot about who I am, what I want in a relationship, what I need in a relationship. And the best relationships, even though I'm not still in those relationships, I'm also super grateful because it's not, oh, this wonderful person showed up in my life and I lost them. It's, oh, this wonderful person showed up in my life. I allowed them into my life. I experienced that relationship and I upped my self-worth. And I started realizing what I want and what I need in my life.
And your self-worth goes up because you realize, oh, I can achieve a relationship of that style, of that level of quality, of that.
And also, when you leave a relationship that is not working you, wow, I was strong enough to leave it.
Yeah.
Because how many people stay in a relationship that doesn't work for them?
Yeah.
Just because they are scared of
because of emotional dependency or fear of not being able to find anyone better,
or scared of how the other person will react, scared of the other person getting upset and lashing out. Like, there's so many fears that can trap us in relationships where exactly, like, if you have that core level of gratitude for yourself, you're gonna survive it even if it sucks.
You want to know a fun fact? Snoop Dogg, let me see if I can find it here quickly. He did a song about 2 weeks ago. It's called "I Wanna Thank Me," and it starts out with him being like doing an acceptance speech for an award or something like that. And he was like, "I want to thank me for working every day and not giving up and always growing and blah blah blah," and really talking about his personal development journey. And he has a song where he really is the song is about thanking himself and having gratitude for himself and celebrating everything that he did and all the choices he made to continuously grow and to honor where he came from, but also where he's going, right? And I saw that, like, and I was like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I like that. And I'm sure some people would look at that and be like, ooh, what an arrogant prick. But like, with my context, I looked at that, I was like, mad respect. Mad respect.
And I can tell you, I've always been very good at creating magic in my life. I've lived in amazing places, done amazing things out of nowhere. And I had a period where I lost it. I really lost my magic. And I lost myself. And I had no clue what to do. No clue. And at the time, a lot of people gave me the secret. It was the fashionable thing, you know. And a lot of people gave it to me, and I was not ready for it, so I lost it, and I lost it. I got the book, but I at one point I realized I'm so lost. I cannot get out of this. I do need help, and because everybody talked about that movie and that book, I got it. And I remember watching the video, and Yannick Passing, he was a young boy at the time, and he was, "Mom, we know all that." And I said to him, "And we can do it better." And I said to him, "No, baby, believe it or not, I lost it. Let me watch it because I lost something. I don't know what it is, but I lost something." Yeah. And he would pass and say, "Mom, this is ridiculous. We could be teaching this better. This is wrong. This is not the way to do
I
it.
may or may not have had periods of my life where I may have been a little bit arrogant.
No, but you knew it because you were very connected. And you could not understand what I was going through.
But, I mean, here's the thing. My mother obviously has been a very constant cheerleader in my life and constant support, right? And generally an optimist. And in the family,
Yes,
my mother and I have been known as the fatal optimists. And my father and my sister have always thought we are maybe sometimes unrealistically optimistic at times.
But we are good at it.
So we've always had kind of that base. But yes, there was a period where my mother was going through maybe a not so nice period emotionally. And yeah, she started doing a lot of personal development stuff.
But let me just say, finish my story, and then you finish yours.
Sure.
What I got out of it was I had forgotten to be in gratitude.
Yeah.
What really, it's a long video,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of tips, and there were other tips that I got, and they were very helpful. But what I realized immediately is that I had forgotten to be in gratitude. Because as we mentioned, my father lives in gratitude. He naturally, all the time, found wonderful things to say about people. The person that sweeps the floor outside, everybody. He treated everybody like a person, gave them advice, talked with them. And he always had something wonderful to say about people and things. And I lost it. And it was not that I became ungrateful. It's just that I forgot every day to look for some things to be grateful about other people and about myself. And that's why I love talking about this subject, because it was within hours of me. When I started, I could not think. My life, I could not think of anything I could be grateful. And I lived in a house. I had food on my plate. I had a lot of things I could be grateful, but I had lost it. I really had lost the ability to be grateful. And doing an exercise where every day I had to find 3 things. Now it sounds ridiculous because 3 things I can find in an hour, but at the time it was so difficult. And being faithful to me and to the exercise of going every day to find something to be grateful for changed my life. Changed my life and brought me back to myself. And brought me back my self-respect and my respect for other people. Because as you say, sometimes you are into this so drained and the insecurities kick in that you build relationships that are not feeding each other, but they are draining each other.
Yeah.
And by me changing, I was able to change a lot of things around me. And I was like, seriously? The only thing I had to do is be grateful. I had forgotten. So I just want to point that out. And you want to continue?
Yeah,
because
no,
I
just
have
wanted
something
to add. I
add.
just wanted to add a little bit of like this story that my mom is sharing. It's a very, very important story, and it connects a little bit to what we were saying in the beginning. You know, if you know a person through a longer period, and then they go through a period where they kind of lose themselves, you have to be more patient and more supportive with them.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to add to that now with my mom's story is sometimes we define such a very strong, solid image of who a person is, and then it becomes a little bit harder to empathize and sympathize and understand and put yourself in their shoes. So, for example, when my mother went through that period, I didn't understand it. When she started doing more personal development, I was like, you could be teaching this stuff. Like, you shouldn't be, like, why are you doing this? I didn't really understand what was wrong, because she had always been so optimistic and such a go-getter. And obviously now with more maturity and now being an adult and now obviously having studied a lot of psychology and also done a lot of self-reflection, I understand that sometimes the people that come across as most confident, sometimes inside are the least. And sometimes people that are very depressed can actually, to the outside world, be very entertaining and very positive. Look at Robin Williams. I believe he committed suicide from depression, but really to the world he gave so much joy, right? So what I also wanted to just add to what you're saying is, in that moment I was arrogant because I was like younger, I was a teenager, and I also was not as empathetic. I was like, why are you going through this? It makes no sense. You could be teaching this, because obviously by being my mother, she had taught me a lot of these skill sets, a lot of these things that these movies were teaching her about positive thinking. It was during the period where law of attraction and all that was very, very in like very famous and like the super exciting, and on TV you would see The Secret, everyone on things like that, and I just looked at that and I was like, isn't this how we live every day naturally? Just thinking positively, because that's the feeling I had.
No, and a lot of, I want to add something to, a lot of people, they're good at putting out into the world what they wish they had in themselves. So, you know, this pattern of, okay, how come there's so many people who are depressed who are extremely cheerful and that are jokesters and that lighten up the mood, and how come there's so many people that don't have a lot of confidence but that, you know, present as if they have a lot of it. A lot of us, because we don't have that feeling inside and we suffer with that feeling ourselves, we want to A, not make other people feel the way we feel, and B, try to make people feel the way we wish we could feel.
And in this case, I knew it, but I forgot it along the way. I mean, I had taught it to the children, I had taught it to a lot of people, and that was Janice's frustration. I mean, you teach this to everybody, but I forgot it. I was not using it on myself. So there's no point of having a lot of tools if you don't use them. A lot of knowledge if you don't use it. And I forgot it. And I want to add something. What has happened to me since then, this was many years ago, I have reached a level of success, of gratitude, of wonderfulness every day in my life, but I still have my own insecurities, my own moments. And now the problem is that it still has to wake me up sometimes, is be grateful for everything that presents, because now so many good things present that I'm worried that so many good things are happening. And
no, she'll literally come into my room in the mornings while I'm like still half asleep, and she'll come and she'll be like, I'm not doing well today, I'm not feeling well today, I need to talk to you, I have this situation, and she starts explaining the situation, and it's wonderful. It's like everything she's wanted, everything she's been asking for, really, really wonderful situation. But then I had this situation, and she starts explaining, it's really, really wonderful, and I just start laughing and laughing. She's suffering, she doesn't know why I'm laughing. I start laughing, I'm like, Mom, you're complaining to me because you have two good things. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, you know, you can have them both, you don't have to choose one or the other.
This is a very common thing. I was actually talking with someone yesterday about this. People who have experienced loss, great loss, whether they've had to move, whether they've lost a lot of money, whether they've lost some very important friendships or relationships, people who have suddenly gone from feeling that they're on top of the world to really feeling that they're on the bottom. People who have experienced that sensation of losing everything, they can generate a fear of being happy again and good things happening again. This person that I was talking to yesterday, in her context, she had literally lost, she got sick, a lot of people in her, like she lost her job, she lost her friends, she lost relationships, a lot of things went downhill. And then as of late, she has started becoming much happier and gotten many opportunities. And there's this general fear of being happy again. And because with that knowledge of it can be taken away. And a little bit of context here with my mother, when we moved away from Canada, a lot of bad things happened and we lost a lot of money, and we went from living basically in a mansion and having 3 cars to basically not being able to afford a taco on the street in Mexico. We really went from riches to rags. Like our clothes were literally broken and we would have to buy them in street markets, and like it really went, like there was a big contrast.
Well, my mother was dying.
We made a lot of sacrifices because we had family members that were in very rough shape. My grandmother in particular was dying of cancer, and a lot of sacrifices were made. A lot of mistakes and mismanagement of money were made. And a lot of just very unlucky things. I mean, when we were trying to sell the house, that was on a beautiful lake. The lake was man-made, and they were reconstructing a dam. So instead of having a beautiful lake in the backyard, we had what looked like a swampy wasteland. And it was like very hard to sell a home with that view, when you really, the asset of that home is the beautiful lake, right? Yeah. So we had that experience, and we really went from being on top, and there were so many things that were lost. Obviously, my parents even divorced shortly after that. So there were many things that relationships, friendships, money, everything suddenly was falling apart. So now where we are now process of really growth, of self-exploration, finding ourselves again, developing new relationships, developing new financial like standards and things like that. There obviously is more fear now, because when you haven't had a big loss, you can be a little bit more overly confident or sometimes reckless. But when you've had a big loss, there is that sense of like, I don't want to get excited, or I can't have this because if I have this, this is going to be lost. And I've seen that a lot. So one thing that talking about gratitude, that be grateful for the fact that you have the strength to get up again. This strength to put yourself out there again. The strength to choose, I am gonna get back up in level. Because yes, we talk a lot about leveling up, but sometimes you level down in life. And have the gratitude with your strength and perseverance to choose, okay, I lost it all, I'm going to rebuild it. And some of the people that I most respect in life are people that I know that have gone through that period. That doesn't mean that if you haven't gone through that period, you should do it.
Never.
Stay on your course if you're going on a good one. But I have mad respect for people who have been able to build something great and lose it all, and have the courage and the patience to build it again and build it better with a better foundation.
And I mean, we all go through losses, and some of them choose a different path. For a long time, I choose something different, and I still could learn. I still could develop. So don't go through this. You don't need to. You don't need this life story before and after, because before and after, I was successful and I could talk about these things, and nobody asked anything.
Yeah, sometimes I just want to put into slightly different words what you're saying. Sometimes a sense of imposter syndrome with kicking, where, you know, we feel like, oh, I can't talk about this if I haven't experienced it, or I can't help out with this if I haven't experienced it. So we'll put ourselves, sometimes subconsciously, sometimes right on that border between conscious and subconscious, we'll put ourselves into negative situations, thinking that we need them in order to be valid, in order to be an authority or something, in order to be able to help someone with something.
I did it. I mean, we were doing very well. And just because we didn't have the story, we looked for our stories. And I mean, there were a lot of choices we did that we shouldn't have done if we had not been looking for that story of success. I think we could have avoided a few. So that's why I'm telling you, don't do it. It's not necessary.
And that's where we go back to this having gratitude for yourself. Because if you've had the really rough situation, but the fact that you're listening to this podcast means you're still trying to do something to get better. Whatever point in your life you're at, whether you feel it's good, whether you feel it's bad, you're right now making a conscious effort to improve something in your life, to learn something, to grow. So, okay, find gratitude in that. If you have that core, like, it's really creating a foundation for yourself, for your identity, that makes it easier to not lose yourself in difficult situations. If you know you can get through it, if you know you've handled it, if you know you've survived before, even though you really don't want to have to do it again, even though you're tired, even though you're frustrated, if you know you've done it before and you know that eventually you'll do it again, it changes everything.
Yeah,
It really
and
changes
take
everything.
one day at a time or 1 hour at a time. Since my father's passing, I realized that a lot of my life had been
About him.
about him. And seriously, the first days and still there are moments now that I will go into panic. What do I do with my life now when he's not around? How do I define every decision I make without him? And I have had to go through this in the last, I've been told, is 2 weeks. One day at a time, and sometimes a moment at a time. And I'm doing very well, and suddenly there's a wave of sadness or emotion that comes, and I just ride with the wave, and I go back into the gratitude,
Yeah.
back into the songs because he liked to sing, and go up again, and don't let that define me. Don't let that define me.
Yeah.
And seriously, you can get through anything if you add gratitude to your life. I've seen it with myself, with my life, at the lowest moments, and now at the highest moments too, where I have to find a new way of being in gratitude, as it says, about all these wonderful possibilities that show into my life, that I can, oh wow, look, just instead of worrying, oh look, this is happening, I have these new possibilities.
Yeah.
Gratitude for that. Gratitude for the friendships I have developed with my children, that they can wake me up and say, Mom, look what is going on, no? And because when you're used to getting worried and the worry disappears, you transfer to something else. And I realized that now that my father is not here and we don't have the constant worry of how is he doing, is he eating, is he not, whatever, I got so addicted to the worry that I'm transferring it to silly little things sometimes, you know?
It something can happen with our emotions where we feel a certain emotion for such a long period of time that it almost becomes a habit to feel that emotion.
It is a habit, yeah.
So, you've got it on autopilot. You already know that the same was yesterday and the same was the day before and the same as the day before, you're going to feel this way. And that means that even if situations have changed, if you're not really looking and going, oh, situations have changed, I should update my emotions, you start projecting those emotions into the new situation.
Your brain chemistry obviously is also affected by a lot of environmental things, right?
Yeah.
So when you've had an environment that helps you kind of generate a certain brain chemistry, it can take a little time to break that mold, or break out of that situation. And it takes time. It's one day at a time. But
let me just okay. Before you change, you're going to change subject?
I'm going to change direction of the
conversation. Yes, okay. I used to be in a lot of pain many years ago. I used to be in extreme pain most of my life. I don't remember a day in my childhood I didn't have pain. And my early adulthood years, if you can say that, I was in pain. And I remember the first times I was completely pain-free, waking up and thinking, there's something very wrong. There's something very wrong. And there's something was so wrong. And it took me days to find out, oh, it's because I don't have pain. And seriously, but when you said something about the brain, I remember my brain thinking, and it has allowed me with a lot of my clients to be aware of that. And when they go, there's something wrong, could it be that you have less problems? Oh, really? Oh, that's it. No, or that you don't have pain. So be aware of that. Thank you for saying that, because that should be a warning sign sometimes. Yeah. When something starts going well, sometimes we think it's wrong because we are not used to it. So continue, sorry.
So now, obviously right now we've been talking a lot about self-gratitude, and also having gratitude for difficult periods and difficult moments. What I want to go now is a little bit more into the conversation of how do you deal with expressing gratitude and receiving gratitude with different types of personalities and different contexts. Yeah. I was talking with Nata, one of the guys on the team yesterday, and he's more introverted, so he's less expressive, right? And he was saying that his family during his teenage and early 20s or whatever, when he was studying, he stayed with different uncles and family members here in the city because his parents, they live kind of out in the countryside, but the schools and things and opportunities were in the city. And when he left those homes of those uncles and family members, he felt that he was expressing gratitude by not being a burden, because he felt like a burden for them. However, when he left and no longer really came back seeking them out a lot, what they ended up feeling was a sense of abandonment. But really what he was communicating is, look, you helped me get to a point where now I can stand on my own 2 feet, and I'm grateful for that. And
so I'm gonna lift the burden.
I'm gonna remove my burden. I'm gonna remove you from the burden of having to take care of me. And he thought his gratitude was implied, but what they felt was very different. And when we have different contexts and different personalities and different cultures and different things, different ways of looking at a situation, which we all tend to do, sometimes gratitude can be lost in translation. Sometimes we thought it was implied. There are certain people, more introverted people, their gratitude is gonna be more implied than expressed, because they have a really hard time expressing it verbally. Then it's saying thank you is really can be it's very hard. It's too vulnerable for them. They have to get too vulnerable to do it, and they have to sometimes really analyze. Do I really feel gratitude, or am I doing this because of I feel like I have to? And if so, then it's not genuine. But is it genuine? Well, I think it's genuine. But what am I truly grateful for? And they can also go in circles in the head, choosing their wording and choosing what to focus on. And so introverts sometimes fail to communicate it. And sometimes what we talk about here is sometimes their way of showing gratitude and affection and love is just being there for you. And sometimes even criticizing you and critiquing you and guiding you. And because they're taking the time and they wouldn't take the time otherwise if they didn't care for you, right? So there are so many things where gratitude can be lost in translation. And I think just understanding introverts, they're not going to express it with, oh my goodness, thank you so much, you changed my life and you mean the world to me. Whereas more ambiverted people probably will be like, oh my goodness, you've changed my life and thank you. And they probably will be like, I love you, thank you, blah, blah, to everybody. And don't devalue that either, because they do really feel it. They just have a much easier time expressing it. So understand that different people have different ways of expressing gratitude.
My father was metallic, and a way for him to show his love was to really find all the problems that were in your life and tell you how to fix them, or point them in your face and put them in your face so you will see them, and if he didn't feel it was clear enough, he will repeat it. He could be very stubborn, but that was the way he
because from his perspective, he was like, wow, this person is so amazing. I care so much about this person, but they have this problem. I want to help them with it. I don't even know if they've noticed they have a problem. So I'm going to point out to them, hey, look, you have this problem. Don't you want to fix it? I can help you fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it so that you don't have to have this problem, because I like you. I want you to not have this problem.
Not in those words, but yes.
But exactly. And that's the thing where things get lost in translation, because we're intending certain things and we're assuming that the other person receives it. And how many of us, we haven't had like parents like that are introverted, that maybe aren't the ones that say I love you every day. Maybe for years they don't. I know my dad, who's metallic, I think it's really only in recent years that I've started hearing him say I love you in words. Luckily, I did know how to read it in his actions. Luckily, I didn't see how dedicated he was, always thinking about us, working really hard for us, wanting to provide us a good life, caring. Even if he didn't ask me directly how I was feeling, I knew that he was always asking mom, like, okay, how's she doing? What's going on in her life? He cared. And people would tell me, oh, your dad, he brags about you so much. He always says such wonderful things about you. So I was lucky enough to not feel like it was an issue. But for those who haven't had that positive feedback, maybe from other sources, or maybe knowing how to read a person's love who is more introverted, it can really feel like, hey, are you seeing me? are you paying attention to me? Do you really love
Yeah.
me? And it can create a lot of doubt and insecurity.
Yeah, and airy people, I mean, we both have air. Sometimes we give space by removing ourselves.
Yeah, I know many situations where out of gratitude for someone, I've left that relationship because I felt like, oh, I'm holding them back.
Yeah.
I want to release them. And sometimes it has paid off and I have been able to communicate it with the other person and they've thanked me later. But when I haven't communicated why I'm doing what I'm doing and I've just left, a lot of people have felt really abandoned.
Yeah. No, I have some friends, they are a couple. They really wanted to create a lot of things with me. And we were creating for a long time. But I could see that if I kept creating for them, they would not step up. And I really, really, really went completely out of their universe.
Yeah.
And I see them now growing and shining and traveling all over the world and making money. And I'm so proud of them. And I sometimes think maybe I should tell them that
What you were
what
doing.
I was doing. But then
Yeah.
I think, well, they're doing so well. They don't need the explanation, you know. But yes, I mean, be aware that some of us might do that too.
Yeah.
I'm also fire. So I also push and I push and I push and I can be very stubborn, pushing and provoking for them to change their points of view, to change the way of doing. And then I'm earthly, where I'm going to cuddle them and say nice things and
No,
protect them, you know.
I want to do the flip side of when you're dealing with introverts. If you want to express gratitude to introverts, I think even though all of us can deflect compliments due to insecurities, introverts will have a very logic-based way of doing it where they're like, if I don't believe your compliment or if I don't agree with your compliment, I won't accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know I've done that a lot. You know, people will tell me, oh, you look so pretty. And I'm like, what value does that have? What's the point? Are you saying that just to be nice? Are you saying that to sell me something? You know, like I would really devalue it for so many reasons. But if someone gave me a really specific compliment where they said, look, you have been a great friend in this way and this way and this way. You've supported people in this way and this way and this way. That for me, like, wow, that would really touch home because they would explain to me. And that's something you brought up earlier, that I also would do that to compliment. That my automatic way of complimenting people is explaining to them, hey, this is the value that you've had in my life or in the world, or this is the ways in which you've done great things. And my problem has been with maybe more emotionally driven people who would receive that like, oh, so you only like me because I'm useful, or you only like me because you benefit. And I've been like, no, wait, what? And I had to learn to, with some people, make it really about the emotions. I feel good when I'm around you. Thank you. I love you. I care about you. And that's how they receive love. So if you start looking at people that, you know, in our other videos, we talk about their personalities in detail, how to read them, how to sort of identify people and how to speak to them. But even if you haven't seen that, if you just start looking at what are the things people talk about the most, or what are the activities they engage in the most, what are the priorities in most situations,
What are the words they use?
what are the words they use, what are their instincts when they're under pressure, what are the instincts when they're happy, start noticing certain patterns. If you can speak to them in that language, then it's so much easier for them to receive because it makes sense to them.
Yeah.
no,
I'm a queen of evading sometimes. Evade?
Avoid.
Avoid.
evading,
I deflect. I'm like in the Matrix, you know, that I go one way and the other. And I was remembering now, we cut our hair and changed the color. And a friend of ours came and when I arrived to the place, oh, how beautiful you look. I love the haircut. You're wonderful. I really like it. It's so modern or something. And my instinct was to say, and have you seen it, Sil? She has also. And when I said it, I remember last time that he liked one of my haircuts, I did exactly the same. I went to, thank you, but look at it, tell her something. And it was like, I've done that before.
I'm a very useful deflection in that situation because I'm always changing my hair. So it's always appropriate to see, have you seen her hair?
And because in that moment I didn't want the attention. I
Yeah.
mean, I really in that moment I was feeling very low, and I was just deflecting.
Yeah.
So also notice those things. So don't take it personal when they don't receive it, because in another day I might have felt beautiful, but in that
Yeah.
moment I was not feeling. It was recently.
No,
so
when it comes to gratitude, and this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, the best way to express gratitude for someone is basically helping that person have gratitude for themselves and be able to celebrate their achievements or their contributions or their value or see it themselves. So you have to basically sell them on why you had that gratitude for them, why that thing that they did was valuable, because people are so good at devaluing themselves. So I think, kind of in a nutshell, the best thing you can do is have gratitude for yourself, express gratitude to other people based on their context, based on their personality, and also try to do things that are a little bit more specific, especially with introverts. With all types, it can be good. With certain types, you got to add more emotions to not make them feel like, exactly like my sister said, there's some people like the aquatic types that they really need to feel that strong emotional deep connection. Using words like I love you, I care for you, things like that are really, really important to mix in to kind of gratitude expressions sometimes. But really helping the other person see the value in what they do
Oh yeah.
is the best skill you can develop to make them feel like people are grateful for them, making them feel like they're making a difference, making them feel like their presence and their contributions matter. And at the end of the day, gratitude is helping people improve their self-worth. And you want to help improve your own self-worth, but also help improve other people's self-worth.
Yeah, and it's very beautiful, because if you really learn about to do that, it works two ways at least. First of all, you start recognizing their value, and secondly, people will love you more because they can see themselves through your eyes.
Yeah.
So that will make you better in business, better parents, better friends, better partners, everything, because you will change the focus into the positive, but the realistic positive. Is not a crazy optimism. No, let's dream about something wonderful and then it will fall from the sky, which actually 2 bundles of joy appeared on our door yesterday.
So we normally recommend for you to take certain actions to make certain things happen in your life and not expect happiness to
Steve,
fall from the sky.
Can you show bring our little 2 bundles of joy that fell from the sky yesterday?
Yesterday. They're sleeping. Okay.
We basically, what happened yesterday, just to give a little context, someone rang the doorbell. I opened up the door. There was no one. I looked down, and there were 2 little kittens.
In a box.
And I was like, what happened here? Did they get the wrong door? What's going on? Why are there kittens in front of my doorstep? And I just wrote in a group chat, help,
what do I do?
what do I do? And then obviously we have some people on the team that have been wanting cats for a long time.
Long time,
We've
every
had
day.
moms every day trying to convince me that we needed office cats. Well, we didn't even need to invest in office cats. They showed up at the door.
And they're so
They're
cute.
super cute. They're super
They're
cute.
so cute.
Even I, that
And
not always the biggest cat person, they're stunning.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, and so once in a while things like that will happen, and we're so happy. We're really, really grateful. Not just because we have cats now, which we really, really wanted. Yes, a lot of gratitude for that too, but also realizing, hey, somebody was getting rid of these cats in a very irresponsible way.
Very responsible.
These are super young. They're 1 month old. They were separated Yeah, they drop them at a random person's store. No,
she
I said irresponsible. They drop them at a random person, not knowing if they're home, not knowing if they're going to accept the cats, not knowing if they're going to treat the cats well. Part of me hopes it's somebody who kind of knows us enough to feel like, oh, they're good people, they're going to take care of them. But we don't know a lot of people in our building.
No,
so.
we live in an apartment building, which makes it so much more strange.
Yeah.
You would kind of maybe imagine that with a home and leaving it on the porch, but in an apartment building on the back door.
And there are many apartments that are empty at the moment.
Many in this building.
And we were in Acapulco some days ago. So how many days have we been here?
We've been home for
half
we
a
literally
week,
just I think.
Came back.
Yeah.
So also the gratitude that
these
cats actually were able through all of that to get to a loving home.
They were full of bugs.
They have fleas that we're going through a flea treatment, but the problem is they're too young to really get a proper flea treatment.
Because it would be
the
toxic
medicines are too toxic, so they got just a minute amount, and I'm gonna bathe them now and help and use a little brush and do different things to kind of do it more manually, but. It's
No, the odds of them. I don't know how many apartments. There are several towers here, and we don't know any of our neighbors.
Yeah.
And there are, I don't know how many towers. 4 towers, each of them with 4 apartments in each tower, in each floor. Arriving to our house or their house because we live in a different apartment here in the same complex. Ringing the door when there was somebody ready to open and to adopt them. What a gratitude we have.
Yeah.
And after a big loss, we really have lost somebody that really took a lot of our attention and our time. Getting these little bundles of joy and new hope in this moment where we've been really not knowing how to even cope with the loss, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, and also not having the tools to ask if it was really what we could deal with in this moment in our lives, because even if a lot of people had been asking, is it really what we want, and having time to do that and the tools to, are we going to do it or not, and what is the commitment?
And also checking in with each other, making sure that everyone was on the same page, because before these cats appeared, we had a lot of discussions about cats
every day.
It had been very polarized. There were people that really, really wanted cats and people that really, really didn't, for certain specific reasons.
Allergies,
and also not, certain insecurity, because our life has been so unstable for so long that, we didn't want to invest in a life that we couldn't take proper care of.
Exactly.
But they show up at the right time. They show up when we're able to take care of them and when we're ready emotionally to take care of them. And so we're checking in with each other, making sure that everyone is on the same page. Suddenly it's yes, this person agreed. Yeah, this person's excited. Yeah, this person's already talking about how we're going to do this and how we're going to do that. And it really fell together because we were able to be grateful for the situations, for ourselves, for each other enough to communicate, to plan this, to be ready for this.
And that's what you want to see. I mean, sometimes don't go into the blind gratitude. Not really have your feet on the ground. I'm going to cough, sorry. But have a realistic and getting that realistic sense of gratitude. When you see the other person for what they are, even with their mistakes. I mean, recently I had an experience where I had a friend that suddenly we stopped talking, and things like that happen in my life a lot because I know a lot of people. So I didn't pay too much attention. He was traveling a lot, creating a lot, and people started telling me, he's saying bad things about you. And first I was like, this is strange. I mean, we haven't had a fallout or a discussion or anything, an argument, right? Okay, so eventually one day he contacts me, we start talking again, and I did say to him, I mean, I've been hearing that. He responded, whatever he responded, and recently I'm very grateful. his friendship really meant a lot for me. He actually helped me start letting go of my father many years ago. Oh, a year ago or something like that. When before he got so sick, just before I had a session with him, and he helped me start letting him go. And so I contacted him and I went into gratitude, knowing that maybe he did or he didn't, but that was not the most important part. He had found gratitude for me, and he had contacted me. I now find extra gratitude, and we had a beautiful moment together. And that's when you get out of the story, out of your insecurities, out of whatever has gone on when you had a bad moment, and maybe he did say something wrong, or maybe he didn't and people misunderstood. It doesn't really matter, because what he has provided in my life is so wonderful that whether he did or not is not relevant.
I think there are a lot of things that we judge about people societally. Like, it's agreed upon culturally that this is a bad thing to do, so we have to judge and frown upon this. And one of those things, if I go into a personal example, one of those things is lying. Like, as a society, we think of lying as a bad thing. You're deceiving people, you're not being honest, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember I had a friend at one point who lied about everything. If the answer was yes, he would say no. If the answer was no, he would say yes. Anything you asked him, anything you were talking about, he lied about everything all the time. But he was an amazing friend. He was there for me. He listened to me. He cared about me. I was going through a lot of changes in my life, and I was in a vulnerable position,
including that job.
And he was able to, talk to me and relate to me and point out the positive things to me. Like, I think what was special is that he didn't lie emotionally and socially. Like, with other people, the reason why he would lie about everything is that he was really depressed. Oh, the kitty cats are coming. The kitty cats are coming.
These are little bundles of joy. Look at them.
These are babies.
So yeah, I think, like, just to wrap up Itzel's point is, don't dismiss someone's value and capacity to contribute to you.
Yeah, you don't want to use an automatic,
like,
you don't want to use an automatic judgment of someone because of something you've just learned or automatically decided is bad. You have to still look at the situation and see what is working and what isn't working, because he was an amazing friend, and I didn't need to know the truth about superficial things. It didn't matter if he lied about things that weren't important, so long as I knew he was there for me, and he was always there for me. So,
but yeah, so now with these kittens, I think we will use this as our beautiful little outro. We will thank you very much and express our absolute gratitude for you spending time with us every week and sending in your beautiful comments and being there for us during these few weeks and being patient with us with different sets and sometimes not the best audio and such. So thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. And maybe you'll see the kittens too. So if you want to see more of these kittens, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube.
That's a good one.
Anyway, that's all for now. Have a good one.